Hey, how's it going? Now, horror. It's a genre that we all know very well, but what it is today is much different than what it used to be. I would assume that it started off as people telling stories by the campfire, and eventually it evolved into movies and video games and what we know and maybe love, maybe hate today. But for one brief moment in history, on the internet in a whole different medium than what it originally started as, horror returned to its roots. It went back to telling far-fetched stories to strangers online about things that may or may not have really happened and individuals that may or may not be real. And this brief moment in history produced what we now know as creepypastas. Creepypastas have been a staple of horror on the internet for, as long as horror on the internet has existed. It started with Ted the Caver, and it ended with all the analog horror things that we have at this very moment. So I just want to take a trip down memory lane to think about the old creepypastas that used to freak me out, and see if maybe you share that same sort of experience that I did as a kid. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, when you think of creepypastas, the first thing you think about is probably this guy, Jeff the Killer. And I mean, I wouldn't blame you, because this story, and especially the photo, is one of the most iconic things that has ever come out of creepypastas. It's pretty much the poster boy of creepypastas. The problem is that the story itself is not well written at all. The story is just complete edgy edgelord garbage, teenage edgelord garbage. It's about this 13-year-old who is getting bullied, and then for some reason his skin turns pale white when some bullies spill bleach on him and then set him on fire. And so he wakes up in the hospital and he murders his family, and then he cuts a smile into his face, like a permanent smile into his face. Then he cuts out his eyelids for some reason. I don't understand what that has anything to do with anything. And then he becomes, a serial killer or something like that. The story is garbage, and I can't stress enough how badly written it is. But the image is honestly still pretty creepy even now. I can't really look at this image for a long time without getting kind of, a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm sure that, that applies to most people, because this image sits very comfortably in the uncanny valley. And there have been so many more versions of the image that have come out, and they're all, like, creepy in their own way, and they all freak me out, and I do not like this freaking image or the character. And now I could get into the origins of the photo, which are dubious at best. There is a massive search effort for the original photo being done, and it might be nearing its end and it might not, but I'm not going to get into that because that is a very long story for maybe another video in the future. But yeah, Jeff the Killer, one of the most popular creepypastas, traumatized me as a kid. I can't even close my eyes without seeing that stupid face. So yeah, on to the next one. Now, if you didn't think about Jeff the Killer earlier when I said creepypasta, then you probably thought about Slenderman, which is arguably the most mainstream creepypasta of all time, because it's had movies, it's been referenced in video games, it's had its own video games, it's had all sorts of product tie-ins. Now, Slenderman started on 4chan, where all great and bad and middle-of-the-road stories start. And it started off as like old images of children playing in parks and whatever, and then the Slender Man, which is a tall, faceless, pale white entity wearing a suit that sometimes has tentacles, sometimes doesn't, just kind of standing, lurking in the background with some creepy captions. And that just completely, started a wildfire of products and all sorts of things related to the Slender Man. It became one of pop culture's most iconic characters at the time, and maybe still is. I don't know. If I asked a 7-year-old, I don't know if they would know who Slender Man is, but I definitely knew, and I was scared because I thought that he was real. Like, out of all of them, I thought that Slender Man was real, like, for realsies, and that he really did kidnap kids, and that he really was going to come in my house someday and steal me away and murderize me. And I remember one day I almost cried because I heard a sound outside my window, and I was like, well, that's it. That's the Slender Man. I gotta start packing my bags, get my toothbrush, because I'm going with him. So yeah, Slender Man. Not scary like in the photos. I don't find like the Slender Man himself scary. I just thought that he was real, and that's why I used to get scared by him. But yeah, nothing much else to say about Slenderman. Next. The Russian sleep experiment is a story that never really freaked me out because of the story itself, but more so because of the creepy photo that was attached to it. Even though when I was a kid, I, being gullible, thought that the story could have maybe been real, but as I am not a Russian prisoner of war, I didn't really worry about, what could happen to me. So I just thought, wow, that must have sucked for them. But the photo that accompanied it, and I'm gonna say this a lot throughout the video because it's true, many of these creepypasta photos, I had like a phase where that one specific photo would stick with me. But this was one that like scared me a lot because, the guy was like, dude, he's all creepy, that's not natural, how does a guy look like that? Until I discovered that that the photo itself is just of a Halloween decoration, but just with like good lighting and a nice angle to make it look like it's like actually creepy. But you look at the actual statue that is a photo of, and you're like, oh, that's what that is. And then it's not scary anymore, ever. But, it was scary at the time before I knew. But, this one gets kudos for freaking me out, but I was never really that scared by it, just in general. Next. The Mario creepypasta actually just started off as a ROM hack in a real website called SMW Central, or something along the lines of that, which is a website for Super Mario World mods and ROM hacks and all sorts of things. When one of the mods was trying it out, he found it creepy, and then he took a text file that came attached to the game, converted it into an image, and it turned up this photo. And I hate this photo. This photo is creepy, and I do not like it. Especially when you consider it next to a text that appears in the actual game itself once you beat Iggy's Castle, which is the last level of that ROM hack, where it describes victim number 1, as it calls it, and describes how she was found dead in a rug, no eyes, stuff like that, whatever, that fit kind of well with the image. And, those two things mixed together really did not sit right with kid me, and they still kind of don't sit right with current me. And I kind of find it creepy, or at least I would find it creepier if it wasn't because recently a YouTuber posted 2 videos where he pretty much explained the entire lore of the games, because games plural, a lot of people don't know that there are more than one game, and they all kind of expand upon this lore. And well, by the end of it, it kind of turns out that it was never really meant to be a real story. It was just kind of posted by a kid who just kind of wanted to troll the forums and wanted to see how they speculated on, the story and whatever. The videos are very interesting. I'll link them down below, both of them, so that you can watch them. It's a small channel, a bit bigger than mine, but small channel, and I want you to support local business, okay? So yeah, the photo, creepy, but, it's kind of not as creepy now as it was before because of how it's not really, doesn't really mean anything in the context of the story, and also how it's speculated to just be a screenshot from the game Fatal Frame. So it just kind of takes away from the horror aspects, just like the Russian sleep experiment photo. But, it was fun while it lasted. Next. Now the last story for today is smile.jpeg. Now smile.jpeg is way more simple of a story compared to the other ones, because it really is just about this guy who finds an email in his email, and attached to it is an image, and it says, "Smile, God loves you. Spread the word." So he clicks on the image, and it's this creepy image of a smiling husky, and there's like a little hand, a bloody hand reaching out. And, it's creepy. It's pretty creepy. As a kid, this image used to be the bane of my existence. I used to hate it, and I could not sleep thinking that, if I closed my eyes, that dog was going to be standing over me, with that little smile on him. And, there's 2 versions of the photo, and both are creepy in their own right. I do not like either of them, but I used to think that the second one was a pig. I didn't know that it was Smile Dog until way later, but that is far beside the point. The story itself, was creepy enough, so I used to think that because I saw the image, that then the dog was going to come haunt me, like in the story. So I did not like that, and I've been waiting ever since for that dog to show up and come into my house. And oh my god, it's real. The story is real. The smile dog is real. It's killing me right now as we speak. Look at this. This is too graphic for YouTube. I'm not going to be uploading anymore. This is it. See ya.